The smell of hospital disinfectant still clings to my skin when I sign the final papers. $240,000 that my children will never see. The lawyer hands me the keys to the house they thought they had stolen from me, and for a moment I taste the sweet flavor of justice, but also the bitterness of the loneliness I chose. Sarah and Michael will never know until the day I die that the father they tried to rob chose to give everything to strangers. Was it worth destroying a family to save my dignity? Before we continue, subscribe to the channel and tell us in the comments where you're listening from. My name is George Whitman, and this is the story of how I discovered that sometimes the cruelest revenge is simply disappearing from the lives of those you loved most. It's just until you recover, Dad. Sarah hugs me in the St. Mary's Hospital parking lot, but her arms are rigid as wood. I'm 72 years old and I'm not an idiot. I recognize lies when I hear them, especially when they come from my own daughter, the same one I carried in my arms when she had nightmares, the same one I paid law school for by working double shifts in construction. The smell of rain, mixed with her expensive perfume, makes me uncomfortable. Something is wrong, very wrong. Of course, sweetheart, I reply, squeezing her hand. She pulls away too quickly, as if my touch burns. Michael, my youngest son, can't even look me in the eyes. He keeps fiddling with his phone, as if he had something more important than his father being hospitalized. The boy I taught to ride a bicycle now avoids my gaze. That same boy who cried in my arms when Helen died of cancer 5 years ago. The cold October wind makes my old coat flutter, but the chill I feel comes from within. "The nurse will take good care of you, sir," Michael says to the air. "We'll handle all the paperwork, the insurance, those things." My heart races. What paperwork? What insurance? My fingers contract involuntarily, and I taste the metallic flavor of fear in my mouth. Sarah is already pushing my wheelchair up the hospital ramp, her heels echoing on the wet concrete. The diagnosis was pneumonia, serious but treatable. Nothing that justifies all this rush to hospitalize me. "It didn't need to be a private hospital," I murmur. "My health insurance." My voice comes out weaker than I'd like. "It's better this way, Dad." "Trust us," Sarah interrupts, pushing the wheelchair faster. "Trust us." The same words Helen used when she discovered the cancer. The difference is that Helen never lied to me. The hospital corridor smells like chemicals and despair. Elderly patients look at us with pity, as if they knew something I haven't discovered yet. The room is small, smells like artificial lavender, and has an old television hanging on the wall. Sarah arranges my few belongings in the drawer: pajamas, medications, the family photo I insisted on bringing. Her movements are mechanical, without the usual care. "We'll let you rest," she says, kissing my forehead. The kiss is also cold, perfunctory. Do I feel her tears? No, it must be my imagination. A daughter who cares doesn't abandon her father like this. "When are you coming back?" The question sounds pathetic even to me. "Soon, Dad. Soon." They leave in a hurry, whispering something I can't hear. Through the window I see Sarah arguing with Michael in the parking lot. She gesticulates nervously. He nods his head like a marionette. Then they get into his car, a brand new BMW he didn't have money to buy last week. The engine roars in the cold night. The sound disappears into the distance, taking with it the last vestiges of the family I thought I had. The rain starts hitting the window pane, each drop echoing like tears I can't shed. The door closes with a sound that seems too final to be just a "see you later." The silence of the room is deafening. For the first time in decades, I feel truly alone. The clock on the wall reads 8:37. Will I count the minutes until they return, or do I already know, deep in my heart, that they won't come back? The night shift nurse passes by in the corridor, her footsteps muffled by the cheap carpet. I close my eyes and try to remember the last time Sarah really hugged me. 3 days have passed and my cell phone hasn't rung once. The device sits there on the nightstand, silent as a tomb. Every time a bell rings in the corridor, my heart races hoping it's for me, but it never is. "Mr. Whitman, do you have any family to contact?" asked Nancy, the night nurse. She's about 50, with graying hair and a genuine smile, a rare thing in this place. Her blue eyes convey a kindness I haven't seen in weeks. It's strange how a stranger can show more affection than my own children. "I have 2 children, I reply, my voice coming out more bitter than intended. Nancy sits on the edge of the bed, a gesture that's probably against regulations. "And their numbers?" I recite the numbers by heart, those same numbers I engraved in my heart when they were babies. Sarah answers on the second ring, her voice professional and distant. "Hello? Daughter, it's me." Silence. A silence that lasts centuries. Then an impatient sigh that pierces my chest like a blade. The hospital's cold seems to intensify with each passing second. "Dad, I'm busy. How are you?" The question sounds automatic, like a memorized script. "Better. The doctor said I can be discharged tomorrow. Can you pick me up?" The silence returns, heavier this time. I hear voices in the background. Is it her office, or is she at home, pretending to work to avoid talking to me? "Ah, Dad, look. It's complicated. Michael is traveling on business, and I have an important case at the office. Maybe next week." Next week. As if I were an appointment that can be postponed indefinitely. As if 68 years of unconditional love weren't worth a 20-minute trip. "Next week?" I ask, unable to hide my disbelief. "Or the week after?" "It depends. The important thing is for you to recover well, right?" The call drops. I call back immediately, my fingers trembling over the keypad. Voicemail. Her recorded voice sounds cheerful, professional. "You've reached Sarah Morrison. Leave your message." As if I were just another client. I try Michael, straight to voicemail. Not even the pretense of answering. Night is falling outside, and the hospital lights create strange shadows on the white walls. Nancy returns with my evening medication. She must have heard the conversation because she looks at me with pity. That genuine pity that only experienced nurses can demonstrate. "Sometimes families get scared of hospitals," she says gently. "It's normal." But it's not normal. Nothing about this is normal. Scared families don't stop calling. Scared families don't disappear. Scared families hold on even tighter. What's happening to me is abandonment, pure and simple. And for the first time, the word I dare not pronounce echoes in my mind. Betrayal. The next morning, Dr. Peterson comes to examine me. Serious man, small glasses, always impeccable white coat. His footsteps echo in the corridor before he even enters. "Mr. Whitman, I need to talk about your situation." "My pneumonia?" I ask, though I already know it's not about that. The way he avoids my gaze confirms my worst fears. "No, your legal situation." My heart races. Legal, the most terrifying word an elderly person can hear. "What do you mean?" But deep down, I already know. Deep down, I always knew this day would come. "Your children contacted us. They're concerned about your ability to live alone. They're arranging some documents." The word he doesn't say hangs in the air like toxic smoke. What documents? I need to hear him say it. I need him to officially destroy what's left of my dignity. Guardianship, for your own good, of course. The word guardianship echoes in my head like a gunshot. Guardianship means I'm no longer the owner of myself. It means someone else will decide where I live, what I do with my money, even when I can leave this room. It means my children have officially turned me into a child. "Doctor, I don't need guardianship. I'm lucid. I'm fine." The words come out desperate, pathetic. "Mr. Whitman, your children know what's best." He leaves before I can respond, leaving only the smell of his expensive aftershave and the weight of humiliation. The door closes, and for the first time since Helen died, I feel real fear. Not fear of death. That would be merciful. Fear of living as a prisoner of my own children. I call Sarah again. Voicemail. Michael. Voicemail. Through the window I see families visiting other patients, colorful flowers contrasting with the sterile environment. And here I am, waiting for children who will never come back. The bitter taste of bile rises in my throat. 72 years of honest living, and this is how it ends. Not with love, not with gratitude, with legal papers and well-orchestrated lies. The clock reads noon, and lunch arrives on a plastic tray, tasteless food for a man who has lost his appetite for living. Nancy passes by in the corridor and waves at me. At least someone still sees me as a human being. For now. The envelope arrives on a rainy Tuesday, brought by a young man in a suit who seems too uncomfortable to be an experienced lawyer. His hands sweat when he hands me the documents, as if carrying poison. Mr. Whitman, I need you to sign these documents. His voice trembles slightly. Even he knows he's participating in something dirty. My hands don't tremble from weakness. They tremble from pure rage, a fury I haven't felt in decades. The paper is cold to the touch, or maybe it's my fingers that have lost life's warmth. The sound of rain on the window seems like sarcastic applause. Power of attorney for asset management, I read aloud. Each word is a stab wound. Bank account transfer, sale of the Maple Street property, the Maple Street house, 40 years of mortgage payments, 40 years of painting, fixing, transforming 4 walls into a family home. The backyard where Sarah took her first steps, where Michael learned to play baseball on Sunday afternoons, where Helen planted rose bushes that still bloom every summer, now reduced to a line in a legal document. The smell of new paper, mixed with my cold sweat, creates a nauseating combination. Sir, these are just preventive measures. The young man swallows hard, avoiding my gaze. His glasses fog up in the room's humid environment. Preventive for what? My voice comes out louder than intended, echoing off the walls. A nurse passes in the corridor and looks curiously. To ensure your assets are protected during your recovery. Protected from whom? From myself? From imaginary thieves? Or protected for my children, who have already spent the money before I even die? The irony is so bitter I almost laugh. And if I don't sign? The silence that follows is deafening. The young man removes his glasses, nervously cleaning the lenses. Well, sir, your children have already filed for interdiction. With or without your signature, a judge will decide. Interdiction, the most humiliating word a man can hear. It means justice considers you no longer capable of taking care of yourself. It means you've become a child again, only this time there's no love behind the protection. It means your own children have declared you dead while alive. The iron taste in my mouth intensifies. How much time do I have to decide? The question comes out automatically, though I already know I have no real choice. 48 hours. He leaves me with the papers, hurried like someone fleeing a crime scene. On the first page, I see the house value, $210,000. The young man who built it brick by brick never imagined that one day it would be just a number on a sheet of paper. Each dollar represents hours of work under the scorching sun, bleeding fingers, aching backs, everything reduced to figures to facilitate betrayal. The air conditioner hums, the only sound in the room's deadly silence. I call Sarah. This time she answers on the first ring, as if she were waiting. Dad? Her voice sounds controlled, prepared. I received the papers. Calculated silence. I can imagine her on the other side, sitting at her mahogany desk, rehearsing lies. Sarah, explain something to me. Why are you selling my house? Dad, it's not a sale, it's administration, to pay your medical expenses. Administration. What a beautiful word for theft. What an elegant euphemism for leaving me homeless. The hospital smell intensifies, as if the environment itself is getting sick with so much falsehood. What expenses? My health insurance covers everything. Logic should be simple, but I'm dealing with professional liars. Dad, you don't understand. You're sick, confused. Confused. Here comes the ready excuse. Confused. My voice comes out louder than intended. Other patients must be listening, but I don't care anymore. Sarah, I raised you, I put you in school, paid for your college, helped you buy your first apartment. Am I confused now? Her silence is more revealing than any confession. I can hear her accelerated breathing, the sound of papers being nervously shuffled. Dad, please, where is Michael? He's handling things. What things? Counting money they haven't stolen yet? Planning how they'll divide the spoils? What things, Sarah? But the call has already dropped. Again. I spend the night looking at the papers, the words blurring in my vision. In my bank account, there are $68,000, a lifetime savings. Money I saved penny by penny, working even when sick, even when tired, because I wanted to leave something for my children. Now they want to take everything from me while I'm still alive to watch the show. Now they want to take everything from me while I'm still alive to see it. The rain continues hitting the window, like tears I can no longer shed. Each drop that runs down the glass seems to take a piece of my soul. The clock reads 2 in the morning, but sleep doesn't come. How can it come when you discover you spent your whole life loving people who were only waiting for your death? How can it come when betrayal has the first and last names of family? The pillow is wet, but I don't know if it's sweat or the tears that finally managed to escape. The photo is here in the drawer, a bit yellowed around the edges, like memories that insist on fading. Sarah is 6 years old, Michael 4. We're in the backyard of the Maple Street house on a spring Sunday in 1998 that seemed eternal. Helen is only 2 months pregnant. We lost the baby the following week, but that day we still had hope. The smell of barbecue mixed with the lilac perfume Helen wore on Sundays. The children's laughter echoing throughout the entire neighborhood like celestial music. My fingers tremble, holding the photo, not from age, but from brutal longing. I remember the smell of barbecue, the children's laughter, how Sarah insisted on helping Daddy flip the hamburgers. Her little fingers could barely hold the spatula, but the determination on her face was absolute. Michael ran after butterflies with a net I made myself from a broomstick and mosquito screen. He would stumble on the grass, get up laughing, run again. Helen filmed everything with that old camera that broke the following year. How many memories did we lose when it stopped working? How many memories did we lose when they stopped loving me? The sun that Sunday seemed golden, different, as if God was specially illuminating our small family. Daddy, when I grow up, I'm going to live here forever, Sarah had said, hugging my leg dirty with cement. I was fixing the fence that weekend. Her little hands left marks on my old jeans, marks that Helen complained about at washing time, but that I secretly loved. And I'm going to live in the house next door, Michael completed, so we'll stay close. Helen smiled, that smile that lit up any environment. And will you take care of Daddy when he gets old? The two shouted together. Of course! Their voices still echo in my memory, pure, sincere, full of love impossible to fake. How did 2 such innocent children transform into the adults who abandoned me? I put away the photo and closed my eyes, trying to return to that Sunday forever. I remember when Sarah graduated law school. I was in the front row in a borrowed suit, the only one I had. I had saved for months to buy flowers for her, red roses that cost the equivalent of 2 days' work. She introduced me to her colleagues as my hero. I cried. A 72-year-old man shouldn't admit this, but I cried like a child. Tears of pride, of love, of achievement. I thought we had won together, she with the diploma, me with the certainty of having been a good father. How wrong I was. Michael was different, quieter, always too sensitive for this cruel world. When Helen died, he didn't speak to me for 3 months. I thought it was grief, the pain of losing his mother at 27. Now I realize it might have been anger at me, at God, at life that insisted on taking away the people we loved. I should have insisted more, forced conversations, broken the silence. But I respected his space, his way of processing pain. Maybe it was my biggest mistake as a father. Maybe the silence created a distance we could never bridge again. The hospital room smell brings me back to brutal reality. But we were always family, even in fights, even in financial difficulties. Even when I worked so much I barely saw them. Family was in the blood, in the DNA, in the love I thought was indestructible. Christmas 2023, just 8 months ago, an eternity in betrayals. Sarah brought her new boyfriend, a real estate agent who couldn't stop looking at the house, asking questions about square footage, market value, appreciation potential. At the time, I thought it was professional interest. I even admired his curiosity. What an idiot I was. He was doing free appraisal for my future executioners. The turkey was perfect that Christmas, but the taste in memory is now bitter. Michael was different that Christmas too. Nervous, avoided being alone with me, looked away when I tried to talk. He said he had financial problems. The consulting business wasn't going well. He had credit card debts. Dad, have you ever thought about living somewhere smaller? This house is too big for one person. The question sounded innocent at the time, legitimate filial concern. Now I see it was probing, preparation for the blow. Why? Don't you like coming here anymore? It's not that, Dad. It's just, I don't know. You're too alone. Alone. As if the solution to loneliness was selling memories, erasing 40 years of history. Now I understand everything with painful clarity. They weren't worried about my loneliness. They were worried about their debts, their financial problems, their lives they couldn't sustain alone. And I, old fool in love with my children, am the solution to their problems. The retirement they never knew how to save for. Nurse Nancy enters with dinner, interrupting my mental torture session. Today, she's more serious, as if carrying an invisible weight. Mr. Whitman, can I say something? Sure. Her voice sounds different, more urgent. She sits in the chair beside the bed, a gesture prohibited by hospital regulations. I've worked here for 15 years. I've seen many complicated families. The pause carries meanings I don't want to decipher. You have rights. No matter what your children say, you have rights. Nancy speaks softly like a conspirator. Nancy, there's a lawyer who comes here sometimes. Volunteer work. He helps people in your situation. My heart accelerates for the first time in days for a reason that isn't fear. It's hope, a feeling I thought I'd lost forever. What's his name? David Chen. Do you want me to ask him to come talk to you? I look at the family photo in the drawer. Sarah and Michael smiling, hugging me, promising to take care of Daddy forever. Yes, I answer, my voice coming out firmer than it has in weeks. I want that. Because maybe it's time to teach my children that old George Whitman still has some surprises stored away. Maybe it's time to show that father doesn't mean victim. Maybe it's time for them to discover that love can also transform into war when betrayal is so deep it cuts the soul. Night falls outside, but for the first time in a long time, I don't feel alone in the dark. Nancy gives me a handshake before leaving, and in that simple gesture, I find more affection than I received from my children in recent weeks. David Chen is about 45 years old. Has thin-framed glasses and a handshake that transmits immediate confidence. Not the false confidence of someone who wants to deceive me, but the security of someone who knows what they're doing. Mr. Whitman, Nancy told me about your situation. Can I see the documents? I hand over the papers with trembling hands, not from fear, but from expectation. It's been so long since someone treated me like a human being, like a person capable of making decisions. The smell of his subtle cologne, mixed with the coffee aroma he brought, creates an atmosphere of normalcy I had forgotten existed. His eyes show no pity, just respectful professionalism. Chen reads silently, making notes in a worn leather agenda that seems to have lived through many legal battles. Occasionally, he shakes his head, and I don't know if it's a good or bad sign. His fingers trace the lines with surgical precision, identifying problems my lay eyes couldn't see. The scratch of the pen on paper is the only sound in the room, besides my anxious breathing. Each pause makes me more nervous, but also more hopeful. Finally, someone who understands these matters is on my side. The clock on the wall reads 2:15, and each passing second feels like an eternity. Mr. Whitman, answer me honestly. Do you have any memory problems, mental confusion, anything that could justify an interdiction? The question is direct, without beating around the bush. I like that. No. I know what day it is today. I know where I am. I remember everything, including what my children did to me. The last part comes out with more bitterness than intended. Chen notes something and continues. Did you authorize your children to access your bank accounts? Never. The answer is categorical, definitive. Never. Not even when Helen was sick and I needed help with papers. And do they have old power of attorney from some time when you were sick? No. Helen always took care of those things, and when she died, I took care of everything myself. Chen stops writing and looks me in the eyes. What I see there isn't cheap compassion, but something much more valuable, indignation. Someone is finally indignant for me, for the injustice I'm suffering. Mr. Whitman, your children committed a crime. The words fall like a bomb in the silent room, echoing off the white walls. Crime. The word I didn't have the courage to think, finally spoken aloud by someone who understands laws. The air suddenly seems lighter, as if an invisible weight had been lifted from my shoulders. What do you mean? I need to hear the details, however painful they may be. They accessed your accounts without authorization. They're trying to sell your house without valid power of attorney. And the worst, they falsified medical documents to justify interdiction. Falsified. My own children are common criminals, professional liars. Falsified? The word comes out like a moan. Here in the process it states that you have severe dementia and episodes of aggressiveness. I spoke with your doctor. She said she never wrote that. The world spins. The room floor seems to move under my feet. Severe dementia. Episodes of aggressiveness. As if I were a dangerous animal that needs to be controlled. My own children, whom I raised with so much love, are lying about my mental health to rob me. The betrayal reaches a level I didn't know was possible between people of the same family. Can they be arrested? The question comes out too anxious, loaded with a thirst for justice I didn't know still existed in me. They can. But first we need to protect your assets. Do you want me to file an injunction? Injunction. Beautiful word that means someone will finally defend me. How much will it cost? The automatic question of someone who spent their whole life counting pennies. Nothing. It's volunteer work. For the first time in weeks, I smile. A real smile born in the chest and spreading across my entire face. Do it, Dr. Chen. David. Call me David. David, a question. Why do you do this? Help strangers for free. He puts the papers in his briefcase, precise movements of someone who has done this hundreds of times. My father went through the same thing, Mr. Whitman. My sister tried to have him institutionalized to get the inheritance. When I found out, it was too late. He died thinking he had lost his sanity. The pain in his voice echoes my own anguish. Families destroyed by greed, fathers betrayed by children, a silent epidemic no one wants to admit. I'm sorry. The words sound inadequate for such tragedy. That's why I do this work. So other fathers don't die feeling crazy when they were actually betrayed. David leaves, promising to return the next day with news. I'm alone in the room, but for the first time in weeks, I don't feel abandoned. The silence now has a different quality. It's not emptiness, it's expectation. I pick up the phone and call Sarah. She answers on the third ring, her voice slightly irritated. Dad? Sarah, I want to talk to both of you, here at the hospital. Dad, I already said I'm busy. The same worn-out excuse as always. Tomorrow at 2 in the afternoon. It's important. My voice comes out firm, with an authority I haven't used in years. The authority of a man who has regained hope, who discovered he can still fight. Dad. Sarah. The voice now carries decades of experience, of hard work, of character forged in honesty. 2 in the afternoon. Bring Michael. I hang up before she can respond. The most liberating gesture I've made in months. Tomorrow my children will discover that old George Whitman didn't die. He was just sleeping, gathering strength for the counterattack. Night falls outside, but inside the room a new light turns on. The light of dignity that refuses to die, even when everything conspires against it. The bitter taste in my mouth begins to give way to something I hadn't felt in a long time. The sweet anticipation of justice. They arrived together at 2:15, Sarah in high heels and a black suit, Michael in jeans and a t-shirt, as if it were a casual visit to a sick relative who doesn't bother them much. The contrast in clothes perfectly mirrors their personalities. She, always calculating and professional, he, eternally irresponsible and careless. Her expensive perfume mixed with the cigarette smell Michael brings on his clothes creates a nauseating combination. Hi, Dad. Sarah kisses my forehead, the same kiss as always, cold and perfunctory. Her lips barely touch my skin, as if I were contagious. Michael waves from the door, avoiding getting closer, hands in pockets in a defensive posture that already says everything. How are you? Better. Much better. The answer comes out with a conviction that makes them frown. They expected to find their broken father, defeated, ready to sign any paper. David is hidden in the room's bathroom. We planned it this way. Sarah sits in the chair, crosses her legs elegantly. Michael leans against the wall, looking anywhere but at me. Both seem in a hurry, anxious to resolve this problem and return to their lives. The tension in the air is palpable, electric. The air conditioner hums, the only sound besides controlled breathing. My fingers play with the sheet's edge, a gesture that must seem like nervousness, but is actually anticipation. Dad, about those papers, Sarah begins, her professional lawyer voice taking command. Exactly. Let's talk about the papers. I pull the drawer and take out a folder David brought this morning. Both frown simultaneously, identical gesture that reminds me they're siblings, blood of my blood, blood that became poison. Sarah, you're a lawyer. Can you explain to me what unauthorized access to bank account means? She instantly pales, the makeup seeming heavier on skin that lost its color. Her hands tremble almost imperceptibly, almost, but not to the eyes of a father who has known them since they were babies. Dad, what are you talking about? I'm talking about the $2,300 that were withdrawn from my account on Friday, without my authorization. The silence that follows is deafening. Michael moves, restless, alternating his body weight from one foot to the other. Sarah maintains professional composure, but I can see panic growing in her eyes. Dad, that was to pay your expenses here at the hospital. Michael tries to intervene, his voice coming out higher than normal. Michael, my health insurance covers everything. Where did the money go? The question echoes in the room like a formal accusation. The smell of their desperation is almost physical. Sweat, fear, guilt mixed in a repugnant fragrance that perfumes betrayal. Silence. Sarah looks at Michael. Michael looks at the floor. The non-verbal communication between them tells the whole story I need to know. And there's more, I continue, taking another paper from the folder. The sound of paper being unfolded seems amplified in the deadly silence. This is the medical report you presented to the court to request my interdiction. I read aloud, each word a stab. Patient with severe dementia, episodes of aggressiveness, total inability to manage assets. Interesting, because my doctor says she never wrote this. Sarah gets up from the chair abruptly, her heel hitting the floor hard. Dad, you're confused. Confused. I raised my voice for the first time in decades, surprising even myself with the strength I still have. Sarah, you have a new BMW. Michael, you paid your credit card debts. Where did the money come from? David comes out of the bathroom as we planned, his presence completely altering the room's dynamics. Good afternoon. David Chen, Mr. Whitman's lawyer. Sarah's face is priceless. The expression of someone caught red-handed, of someone who saw all plans crumble in seconds. Michael looks like he's going to faint, his face losing all color. Sarah's perfume intensifies, as if her body were reacting to stress with more sweating. The masks have finally fallen. Dad, what absurdity is this? Sarah tries to regain professional composure, but her voice trembles like a leaf in the wind. The absurdity, Mrs. Morrison, is falsifying medical documents. It's a crime. David opens his briefcase with deliberately slow, theatrical movements, each gesture calculated to maximize psychological impact. We just wanted to protect our father. The word protect sounds obscene in her mouth. Protect from what? From his own dignity? From autonomy? From the will to live? Protect, David interrupts. You withdrew $4,800 from his account without authorization, put the house up for sale without valid power of attorney, and lied about his mental state to a judge. Each accusation is a direct hit. Michael finally speaks, his voice coming out weak as a ghost's whisper. Dad, I can explain. Explain. The word comes out dry, definitive. It's not a request. It's an order. I was desperate. The debts, the failing business. Sarah said you wouldn't live much longer anyway, that it was better to guarantee... Michael! Sarah cuts him off, but it's too late. The truth has been spoken, raw and brutal. Guarantee what, I ask, though I already know the answer that will destroy my heart forever. The inheritance, he whispers. The word hangs in the air like toxic smoke. Inheritance. They wanted my death, not just my money. They wanted me to disappear to make their lives easier. Sarah tries to save the situation, but it's like trying to hold water with your hands. Dad, you don't understand. You're alone, sick. I wasn't sick when you started planning this. I take the last sheet from David's folder, the final evidence of complete betrayal. This is last month's statement. The first withdrawals started 3 weeks before my hospitalization. The two look at each other, and in that look I see decades of complicity, of plans made behind my back. The truth is naked among us, impossible to deny or disguise. The room's air seems to have become unbreathable, loaded with shame and guilt. Get out, I say calmly. My voice doesn't tremble. It's the voice of a man who finally recovered his dignity. Dad, Sarah tries one last appeal, but there's no turning back. Get out! The scream comes from the depths of my soul, carrying 47 years of wasted love, betrayed trust, destroyed family. David accompanies them to the door, his firm steps contrasting with my ex-children's nervous stumbling. Sarah turns one last time, her eyes finally showing something like remorse. Dad, we are your family. No, I reply, my voice returning to calm and definitive tone. You were. The door closes with a final, definitive sound. The echo resonates off the walls like a judicial sentence. And for the first time in months, I breathe relieved, as if a decades-old weight had been removed from my chest. 6 months later, I'm sitting on the porch of my Maple Street house drinking coffee and reading the newspaper, as I do every morning since I returned from the hospital. The coffee has the taste of freedom, bitter but true. David's injunction worked like a precise scalpel. My account was unblocked, the house sale cancelled, and the falsified documents nullified, as if they had never existed. Sarah and Michael had to return every cent, with interest that bit deep into their pride. The smell of the rose bushes Helen planted mixes with the coffee aroma, creating an atmosphere of peace I hadn't felt in years. But the best part wasn't recovering the money. The best part was choosing silence as my definitive revenge. They called hundreds of times in the first months, the phone ringing insistently like bells of an abandoned church. Sarah even showed up here twice, banging on the door with desperate fists, screaming that I was a bitter old man, that family is family, that everyone deserves a second chance. Her voice echoed throughout the entire neighborhood, but I remained motionless in the living room armchair, watching through the half-open curtains, seeing my daughter disintegrate on the sidewalk where she learned to ride a bicycle. I didn't open the door. Silence was my only response, more powerful than any word of forgiveness or condemnation. Each unanswered ring was an executed sentence. Michael sent a letter that arrived on a Tuesday morning, delivered by the same mailman who has greeted me with genuine smiles for 15 years. 5 handwritten pages, blue ink on yellowed paper. Apologies that spread across the lines like dried tears. Explanations about financial pressure that sounded empty as political promises. Pleas for forgiveness, written in shaky handwriting that reminded me of the child he once was. Promises that it would never happen again. Oaths of filial love that arrived decades late. I read every word, every comma, every desperate exclamation point. Then I folded everything carefully and stored it in a drawer I never opened again. I didn't respond. Silence is a powerful tool, more powerful than screams, sharper than harsh words, more definitive than any court. Silence forces them to live with the weight of what they did, without the relief of my forgiveness or my anger, without the catharsis of a fight, without the possibility of redemption through staged repentance, just the absolute emptiness where once existed a father who loved them unconditionally. Nancy came to visit me last week, bringing homemade cookies that smelled of cinnamon and maternal care. We sat talking on the porch, her words punctuated by the singing of birds that nest in trees I planted when Sarah was a baby. Mr. Whitman, don't you miss them? The question carries the genuine concern of someone who understands hospital loneliness. Every day, I replied without hesitation. Honesty hurts, but it's liberating. But I miss the children I had, not the strangers they became. Nancy nodded, understanding with the wisdom of someone who has seen families disintegrate for much less. What if they've changed? What if they're truly repentant? I thought about the question for a long time, watching cloud shadows dance in the garden where Michael used to play with plastic trucks. The answer came slowly, matured like wine aged in barrels of pain. Nancy, when you're betrayed by those you love most, something breaks inside you. Something irreparable, like trampled glass. I stopped to drink a sip of coffee, organizing thoughts that had been crystallizing for months. Even if the person changes, even if they repent, trust doesn't come back. And without trust, what's left? She nodded, understanding with the eyes of someone who has witnessed many family endings in hospital corridors. This morning, an envelope arrived by mail, familiar sender, Sarah Morrison. I didn't even open it. It went straight to the trash, along with all the others that accumulate like dead leaves from a tree that no longer blooms. The garbage collector must think I'm popular, so many letters I receive. If he only knew they're all unread, please. David came yesterday to bring me the final papers, legal documents that officially seal the end of an era. Everything resolved juridically, every I dotted, every T crossed. My assets are protected by legal walls more solid than the Great Wall of China. My house is safe from future family attacks. And now, Mr. Whitman, what do you plan to do with the rest of your life? I looked at him and smiled. A real smile, born in the soul and bloomed on my face. Live, David. Just live. Because at 72, I discovered something important. It's better to be alone than in bad company. And sometimes the cruelest revenge we can give someone is simply leaving their life. Forever. Just as they did to me first. The will is here on my oak desk, waiting only for my final signature. The pen weighs more than it should, not because of the object itself, but because of the symbolic weight of what it represents. "Mr. Whitman," says David, "are you sure this is what you want?" His voice carries professional concern mixed with human understanding. I read once more, each word chosen with surgical precision. "I leave all my assets, totaling $240,000, to Nancy Williams, who showed me what it means to care without self-interest, and to Dr. David Chen's volunteer legal assistance program so that other elderly people don't go through what I went through." The blue ink contrasts with the cream paper, making official a decision that took months to mature. "I'm sure Sarah and Michael will never know until the day I die, when a cold phone call from a law office informs them of my passing. They'll discover in a cold room full of legal papers, surrounded by strangers in dark suits, that the father they tried to rob chose to give everything to people who were more family in moments of need than my own children in decades of coexistence. Strangers who demonstrated compassion when they offered betrayal. Strangers who saw me as a human being when they saw me as a financial obstacle. The irony is delicious. They who so desired my inheritance will watch it slip through their fingers like sand in the desert. I sign the document with a steady hand. I don't tremble anymore. Betrayal taught me something that years of honest work couldn't. Betrayal taught me the difference between blood family and chosen family, between true love and disguised interest. "Done," I say, returning the pen that sealed the fate of the ungrateful. David stores the papers with the care of someone handling emotional dynamite. "Mr. Whitman, may I ask a personal question?" "Sure." His curiosity is legitimate. He accompanied this entire painful journey. "Don't you feel anger toward them?" I think about the answer, looking through the window at the backyard where Sarah and Michael played when they were innocent, when they believed Daddy was an indestructible hero. The trees grew, the children got lost. I used to, but anger tires, David. It tires too much for a man my age to carry as baggage. "And what do you feel now?" The question probes deeper, seeking the emotional truth behind the legal decision. Pity, deep pity that they chose money over love. I pause, organizing feelings that crystallized over these months of silence. Pity that they lost a father who loved them unconditionally. Pity that they'll never know again what it's like to have someone who cares about them truly, without calculating the cost-benefit of each gesture of affection. David closes the briefcase with reverence, like someone ending a particularly tragic chapter. "You are a wise man, Mr. Whitman." "No, David, I'm just a tired man who learned too late a crucial lesson. That sometimes to save yourself, you have to let the people you love drown in the consequences of their own choices." After he leaves, I'm alone in the silent house, but it's not loneliness, it's peace. The difference is abyssal. I take the yellowed photo of Sarah and Michael as children, playing in the backyard that now officially belongs to Nancy. For a moment, I miss those little ones who ran to hug me when I came home from work, dirty with cement and tired, but always with a smile for them. But those children died long before I discovered the betrayal. They died the exact moment they grew up and decided that love has a price, quoted in dollars, that affection can be exchanged for BMWs and paid bills. I store the photo in the drawer, not in the trash, because some memories deserve to be preserved, even when they hurt like swallowed glass. Tomorrow Nancy comes to have coffee with me, as she does every Friday since I left the hospital. Simple rituals that give meaning to the remaining days. We'll talk about her grandchildren I never met, but already love, as if they were mine. About the books I'm reading to fill the time I once wasted on resentment. About plans for the garden that will flourish long after I'm gone. Simple conversations between people who chose to care about each other without ulterior motives, without calculating emotional or financial profits from each shared moment. And when Nancy leaves, I'll sit here on the porch, look at the sunset that paints the sky golden, and be grateful for having learned that true family isn't who is born with you in the same blood. True family is who chooses to stay by your side when you need it most, when you have nothing left to offer except your naked and raw humanity without asking what they'll get in return for that loyalty. The house's silence doesn't haunt me anymore. It's the silence of recovered dignity, of peace conquered through pain, of revenge served cold as a dish that took a lifetime to be ready. I've finished living as a victim. Now I live as a survivor. This story of George Whitman forces us to confront questions we'd rather avoid. When does family love corrupt into greed? Is it possible to forgive betrayals that come from the people we trusted most? And what is the true limit between protecting our dignity and destroying family bonds that seemed indestructible? George's silent revenge may deeply disturb us, but it also forces us to question our own values about forgiveness, loyalty, and the limits of unconditional love. Sometimes, saving our soul requires decisions that forever transform both who we were and who we become. Subscribe to the channel and activate notifications for more stories that challenge our certainties about family, betrayal, and justice. And tell me in the comments, would you do the same as George, or is there always room for a second chance when it comes to family?